All right, so we're talking about measures of position today. This is 3.4. We'll do 3.4 and then 3.5. They're kind of connected. As you recall, we had the nice little bell curve. Drawing this is a pain in the ass. Well, that's not too bad. Remember, we had the mean in the middle. And when we went right, we would be adding deviations. And when we went left, we subtracted deviations. And mu, if you do it right, should be listed right underneath the center of that hill. Does anyone remember the percentages?
1.5 for the -3, 2.35,
It wasn't 1.5, it's 0.15.
1.15. 34 on each side of the mean. 13.5 next to that.
Nice. And it's symmetrical, so
Side.
we just mirror it across the middle. And these are all percentages. So this was our empirical roll table. So I think this following information is for the United States, but it might be the whole world. Male heights are, it has a mean of 70 inches. It's got to be the US because no one else uses fucking inches. It's got to be the US with a standard deviation of 4 inches. Which means I can go through and label my values here. Mu is 70, that's in the middle. And then I go to the right, I just add 4 inches each time. And as I go left, I subtract 4 inches. Yes. So going left to right, I got 58, 62, 66. That's a 66. 70, 74. That's a little hard to read, so I'll put it right here. 78 inches is right there. And 82 inches. So me, Hefe. Hefe is a, I don't want to say a proud. It's about to. I was about to say a proud 5 foot, 5.5 inches. When you're short, you got to add all that extra ½ inch that you can. Fucking matters, right? You don't see that person that's fucking 6.5 feet tall going 6.65 inches. Or 6 foot tall, 6.5 inches. Now, it's always the short fucks. We're the ones that add the extra ½ inch. So like 5 feet, I can turn that to inches. There are 12 inches in 1 foot. So the 5 foot part turns into 60 inches. And if I add the 5.5 inches, Hefe's add a good old 65.5 inches. Which puts me just to the left of this line. Just to the left there. Hefe is right there. Fuck is this? Get over here. What are you doing?
You don't want it.
You're not sitting next to Johnny.
Sorry, everyone.
Oh, man.
Thank you.
I've never demanded a student sit somewhere. But like, I don't know, the fucking guy grew uncomfortable with the angels sitting there. I need my angels in the line of fire where like, if I fucking move just right, one bullet would take out both of you. That's a little dark.
That's what I get for interrupting people.
Yeah. Most people pick a certain spot. She fucking moved on me. She's normally right here. She's fucking teleported away. All right, so that's where I am. Now, female heights. They have a mean of 65 inches. And a standard deviation of 3.5 inches. That symbol means inches if you don't remember. And that symbol means feet. So I had a former student, Ariel. Ariel was 5'3". She's shorter than me. We're both short. Can I put Ariel on this table? Would it make sense to put her here? Why not?
It's the means don't add up, like they're not some.
All the numbers, that's right. All the numbers I have on here are related to men. Women have a different set. So like, I can't really put Ariel on here on the graph. Because it's set up for men. But we're both short. But like, okay, so if we can't, there's gotta be a reasonable way to compare us. Like, how can I get her on a chart where I could see how she's related to me? Well, this chart is relative to men. I could do a chart that says relative to women and try to overlap them, but that's a pain in the ass. We do have something else that works. Like, and I'll show it to you in a second, but another way of like asking the question, like, which of us is shorter compared to our own genders? Does that make sense? Like, am I shorter than more men as opposed to Ariel? Is she shorter than more women than I am shorter than men? So like, if I want to see which of us is shorter relative to our gender, what I'm really looking for is like, how far away I am from me. So like, another way of wording this question is, how many deviations am I away from the mean? What about Ariel? If I got both of our values in terms of number of deviations, I can compare deviations. So this is where I'm going with like 3.4. So the quick rundown on what Miss Angel was, we redid, showed the empirical roll table. And then I put the male values on the table and I mark where mine is. And now I wanna compare me to Ariel. But like, I can't use the same goddamn graph because it's set up for men. So we need a graph that isn't set up for anybody. It's always fun watching the students doing this, run them back. Squinting their ass off. Yeah, you know who I'm talking about. Squinting their ass off, but they're still in the back of the fucking room. When there's plenty of room forward.
Yeah.
And you can even be on the opposite side of the room. You don't have to be within like gas range. I'd say biting range, but I don't bite. All right, so. To motivate this, I'm gonna do a little bit more. Remember we were trying, I kept going about the XI data. Represented the data for the ith person. Well, that's me here. My X score is 65.5.
Is that similar for the TH, is it a comma or a C?
It's an I. But if I look at this picture right here. Like my 65.5 is right here. I should be able to write it in terms of. Oh, I want red, it'll pop better. I should be able to write it in terms of mu plus some unknown, I don't know what it is, number of deviations. It's not -1 because I'm to the left of -1. It's not quite to -2. It looks like it's between -1 and -2. We call this value, this is the number of deviations away from the mean. And I don't know what it is, but it's what I want. It's what I want. If I can find mine and I can find Ariel's, then I know in terms of each of our own graphs, just how far away we both are from our respective means. And then I can get a feel for who's shorter relative to their gender. We call this the Z-score. So we use Z. If you remember, Z represents the number of standard deviations. And remember how this table works, hopefully you can come up with this formula. I can solve this formula for Z. In fact, we just did this in the support course fucking 20 minutes ago, 25 minutes ago. If I want to solve this for Z, I can subtract mu from both sides. I'm trying to get Z by itself. I have X minus mu on the left and Z times sigma on the right. And now I can divide both sides by sigma. And I get Z equals X minus mu over sigma. If you look at the same in terms of samples, it's X minus X bar over S. That's the sample version. And the red box is the population version. Now check that out. If I do this, I can make a brand new graph. Where what we have on the bottom is Z's. And 0 is the center value. And they go up and down by whole numbers.
Can you bring it up a little bit?
So if I did this better, that 0 would be under the center of that. God, that's a shitty fucking bell curve. It's all fucking high on one side and not on the other.
It's better.
Do better than me. Don't you be like me. Now I can find where we both are. I know where I was. I can see my graph up there. Pepe was right here. Let's find out where Ariel was. But I'm gonna find my z-score also. Because I think it's easier if we show, like you see the z-score computation a couple times. Once you do, it's not that hard. It's pretty easy. That's fucking starting to bother me. I'm gonna try to bring that down lower. Before I do, I want to point out, we consider outliers are outside 2 deviations. That's a general rule of thumb. So any data value that lies out here, or any data value that lies out here, those are my outliers. Are in that region and in that region. I'm not quite an outlier. All right, you guys ready to do some computations?
Based on the outliers.
So like Elon Musk is an outlier in our income.
Yes,
It's people that are far outside where everyone else are.
yeah, okay. And then the two, but the outside two, are they?
Like more than those or less than those. So like, if you look at the percentages. If we are in these middle, like to this direction, this direction.
Yeah.
That accounts for 95% of the numbers,
Okay,
which means so there's only 2.5% on the left and 2.5% on the right. If there's people out there, they're like very few
okay,
because it's such a small percent.
okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, to the left and the right of the.
To the left or the right, away from the center, more than 2 away from the center. So that's what outside 2 deviations means, more than 2 away from the center. I think that's the wording that wasn't jiving, right?
Yeah, that's where it wasn't clicking, like from where it's done.
All right, you guys ready to see how these work? Are we excited? Is this not the best thing we've fucking done all goddamn day? All day, Jackie, right? This is better than working, right? There's always that. It's better than going to work. It's even more better, more better? Is there a better word than more better? Even better. It's even better when you know, like, if you're like working on a degree where you can change jobs and like do something that you want to do, and so it's not like you're going for just education, you're like, I'm gonna be getting away from this fucking job I hate. That makes school fucking, like, I'm gonna work my ass off for it. That was me when I went back to school. I was like 30 when I went back to school. I was tired of doing fucking accounting. It was boring as hell to me. I hated it. I was dedicated to passing every fucking class so that I could do well. Get out of that goddamn job. If you're going after accounting, Godspeed, bless you. It was very interesting for a while. I loved the classes. I even liked doing it for the first 2 or 3 years. And I learned how to do a whole lot. Like, I worked for the diocese. I did the accounts receivable, which was all the collections. Then they taught me how to do payroll. And then I was doing payroll for places. And then I learned how to do the payables for when the payables person was sick. And I learned how to do damn near everything in there. But after I stopped learning shit, I was just working with Microsoft Excel all the fucking time. Or like accounting software. And it was not exciting. It did not challenge me. I needed a challenge. Teaching you monkeys is a fucking challenge. I'm fucking around. You guys are monkeys. I got a lot of bright students. Over half of you are above average intelligence. Remember? All right. So Z-scores. Hefe, I had a good old 65.5. That was my score. That was my X. Recall that my mean was 70 and my standard deviation was 4. So I'm going to plug all this information into my Z formula right there for me. Z equals 65.5 minus 70 over 4. If I put that in the calculator, the top is negative 4.5. The bottom is 4. And when I divide, I get negative 1.125. That goes with my picture. It's just to the left of that -1 down here. It's closer to -1 than -2. All right, let's find where Ariel is. Remember, I'm taller than her. She's only 63 inches. I've got a good 2.5 inches on her. Ariel's X was 63 inches. Her mean was 65 with a standard deviation of 3.5. So if I calculate Ariel's Z-score, I have 63 minus 65 over 3.5. -63 minus 65 is -2. And on the bottom, I got 3.5. And when I do this, I get negative 0.57 to 2 decimal places. Which means when I come over and put Ariel on here, Ariel is about halfway between the 0 and the -1, but a little bit closer to the -1. Shit's just all beeping all fucking crazy. Ariel is there. Which means even though I am taller than Ariel, I am shorter respective to other. I'm shorter with respect to men in general. Than she is with women. Now Angel over here, not you, him. He's thinking maybe you could go on the female chart. Right, Angel? I remember what you said. I didn't forget. I'm fucking with you.
Oh, yeah, no,
I'm
no.
fucking with you. Now I remember. I didn't forget. Done fucked up is what Angel said after everybody left on Thursday. I don't remember how it came up, but he said when he walked in the room, he thought I was a female until I spoke.
We were talking about facial hair, I think. It started with the facial hair conversation.
Oh, yeah, that people say.
Oh, yeah.
Same thing when you.
I don't know why I went to that topic though. That seems like an odd. I fucking go all over the place with topics, don't I?
Normal conversation.
Right? I'm all over the goddamn place. You think that's crazy? I'll tell, when we take a break in a little bit, I'll tell you about fucking what I learned today. Today's stats class had the most fascinating fucking shit. All right, so even though I'm taller than Ariel, I'm shorter with respect to men than she is with women. We use these Z-scores for bell curve stuff. To compare values on different bell curves. Finally, we can compare apples to oranges. Skewed graphs, we do something different. But before I tell you what those are, I'm going to explain percentiles and quartiles first.
The keyword is quartiles, right?
Quartile.
Quartile, gotcha.
I can spell out where it looks a little clearer. Quartile.
Gotcha.
So quart with an ILE, like percentile is percent with an ILE. All right. So. Even though we normally use this for skewed graphs, I'm going to show a bell graph example because everything's even. But this is normally used for skewed. But the concepts of percentile and quartile are fairly straightforward. In fact, percentile is how they report SAT scores. If you're in high school and you take the SAT, they give you a percentile. The lowest score is a 0 percentile. The highest score is 100 percentile. And I'll put 50% in the middle. And we'll do 25% and 75%. I've got degree signs, not percent signs, because I don't know what the fuck I'm doing. So let's say who's still in high school? Anybody still in high school? Nobody? Okay. Who do I got no more? Oh, fuck it. Let's say one of you took the SATs and you got the 90th percentile. 90th percentile. The 90th percentile means, wow, that wasn't the word percent. Means 90% of the people have a lower score than you do. So the number tells you how many people have a lower score. The 99th percentile for income. We have a name for those sons of bitches. We call those fuckers the 1%ers, right? They're in the top 1%. 99% of the people have a lower income than they do. The 1%ers. And percentile can be anywhere on this. You just this is the number line going from 0 up to 100. I only showed the 25s, but we could have all the, all the parts in there. The ones I did list are the quartile marks. So quartile 0, I'm going to call Q0. Q0 down below. The first quartile, I'll call Q1. The second quartile is Q2. I think you guys see the pattern here. And the 100% quartile is right there. So the percentages that go with these, Q0 is 0%, Q1 is 25%, Q2 is 50%, Q3 is 75%, and Q4 is 100%. Think quarters and with money. $0.25, 50 cents, 75 cents, $1. %0 means nobody has a lower score than you. If you have the lowest score, you have the minimum score. Or min. If you're at 100%, everybody's below you. You had the maximum score or the max. If you have 50%, you are halfway, you're exactly in the middle. Middle is median. And these ones are just Q1 and Q3. These 5 values here, and they're all numbers. They're not percents, they're values. So like. It would have been these would have been in inches on the height chart. These make up the 5 number summary. That we're gonna do in 3.5. And I'll mention them again there. God, that doesn't look well. Right down here. 5 number summary. The computer is going to generate all this shit for you. So the important part is you understand what this shit means. Okay? Z-score you're going to have to calculate by hand. Stuff we just did on the last page. But this shit, I mean, you could do it. You can do this stuff by hand. But the fastest way, especially with a large data set, is throwing it in the system. Let the system do it. Okay. Nope, I see pins still going. Hold your shit.
Where did you talk about the word mean? You said mean, did you write it down somewhere? In the middle is the mean or something like
I
that?
said median.
Okay, I got it, but never mind.
You laugh about.
I get the giggles when I'm tired.
That's a fun way to live life. Right?
It happens a lot.
Laughing is good for the health.
Oh, yeah.
All right, you guys ready? All right, so like for bell curves. We used mu and sigma or X bar and S to get Z to measure position. For skewed graphs, we use the median and IQR. IQR stands for interquartile range. And it's a number. And it's calculated by taking Q3's value and subtracting Q1's value. And to find outliers. On the bell curve, we did outside 2 deviations. For the skewed graph, we do outside the fences. The fences are going to make more sense. We're going to tell you what they are, and when we do 3.5, and like you can visually see them. There is a lower fence. I'm going to call it LF because I'm probably going to say it a few more times today. And there's an upper fence. And I'm going to call it UF. We're talking about numbers for all of this stuff. So the lower fence is calculated as Q1 minus 1.5 times IQR. And Q3 upper fence is Q3 plus 1.5 times IQR.
So I mean, it's nice.
Times, yeah. I would put a dot, but like it's might be confused as a decimal or something there. I wanted to make it plain and like make it pop. So like think a house, you got your house. You got a front yard over here. Well, if you have a house and you have a yard. And you got a backyard over here. And you've got fences right here. Fences. Anything over in this region or in this region, outside the fences are the outliers. In StatCrunch, where you will find all the stuff for this stuff, we're doing again stats, summary stats, columns. They have min, Q1, median, Q3, max. And they even have the IQR on there for you. That's the same spot we looked for the mean and standard deviation we did the other day. And let's take like a 10 minute break. Give people a chance to stretch their legs. We're gonna do all this stuff in StatCrunch a little bit. We're gonna talk about the 5-number summary. So let me show you how to get some information in StatCrunch. And then we'll use it for the 5-number summary. Blessed day, learning all about this stuff about that. No, that's another day. All right, come over to StatCrunch. We got our data set. I'm gonna use stats, summary stats, columns. I'm gonna do age. You guys want to do age, or you want to do a different column? Height's contaminated. There's people that didn't put in like inches, they put feet. So like, let's go with height. I want to start with the min. I want to add Q1, the median. Where's Q3? Q3, max, and IQR. So I got these numbers here. I'm going to write them down. We're going to work with them and talk about how you calculate the fences and stuff. Okay. So it's the same way you do this, everything we've done in this chapter: stats, summary stats, columns. So for our data set, my min was 14. My Q1 was 18. The median was 21. Q3 was 32. Max was 79. Oops. And then we had IQR, which is listed as 14. Notice I had said IQR is Q3 minus Q1. 32 minus 18 is 14, which is what the computer gave us. Okay. Let's take a look at calculating the fences. So the lower fence was Q1 minus 1.5 times IQR. And the upper fence was Q3 plus 1.5 times IQR. It looks like both of them use this 1.5 IQR. So like, let's calculate what it is. That is 1.5 times 14. If you put that in a calculator, it's 21. So I'm going to fill in the stuff that I have for lower fence and upper fence. Q1 was given to me as 18. And I've already calculated 1.5 IQR is 21. 18 minus 21 is -3. Q3 was 32. And now I'm gonna add 1.5 IQR. 32 plus 21 is 53. My max is larger than the upper fence. Which means there's gonna be outliers. There be outliers. Yar. You know, it's video game day, National Video Game Day. Fucking completely random. You got a fucking day for everything. Every day should be a holiday. I've seen some good holidays. Video game is up there. Donut Day is a good day.
Go skate day,
What?
go skate day.
Chocolate Day. Go for chocolate.
I woke up today.
That should be a fucking day. That's every day though. That,
Every day's a holiday.
every day is a chocolate day though too. What am I saying? Every day is a chocolate day.
Sunday was suicide prevention, suicide awareness day.
Yes.
I think it's a week.
So. That's how we use that stuff. That min Q1. Median Q3 and max. This is called the 5-number summary. I said that a little bit earlier. And we use them. Used in the box plot. Which is a graph. Sometimes the box plot is called the box of whisker plot. As you'll see why in a second. But just like every graph that we do in StatCrunch, we do graph, box plot. When you do the graph box plot, you want to check mark to draw boxes horizontally. It comes unchecked. Other than choosing your column, that's the only change you gotta make. There's a box on there that says use fences to identify outliers. It's already checked. It gives us a way of showing our outliers on the graph. I'm gonna talk about how you do this by hand though, so like if you learn how it's worked done by hand, it kind of makes more sense when you're looking at the box plot what the shit represents. Otherwise, it's a box with fucking lines coming out of it, and you're like, neat. I don't give a shit, it means nothing to me. You know, there's gotta be some blog somewhere that talks about all that secret temple shit. You know what I wanted to do? I wanted to become a mason. I wanna go know what goes on in those fucking temples too.
Oh, that's a bunch of rich people.
I figure that's what it is.
It's a bunch of rich people who have a lot of money to go. That's basically like where you network. You're a part of the lodge pretty much. aren't you?
Right, it's a Masonic lodge. It's not a temple, it's a lodge.
No, it is a temple.
So it's a temple too?
They're temples, yeah. Like over
So
there.
it's a religion?
As you come into Visalia, there's a Masonic temple. That's like a very vintage building.
There's one in Tulare
Rich
too.
People in Visalia, basically with the most amount of say so, they all get together right there and have dinners.
How do you get invited to the Masonic temple?
Have say so, have power, have money.
You gotta have, I wonder how much money is
You
enough
can be
money.
part of like the Alps or the Elks Lodge, but to be a Masonic is. it's whole-
My mom used to waitress for the Elks Lodge. Elks Lodge would seem like, I don't know, they didn't seem like they were rich people.
No, it's just a man cave.
Yeah, this is a man cave, and they did good things. They were a group of do-gooders like Rotary Club. But like the Masons,
That's something different.
that's something different. There's more shit going on there and I wanna know. Like, you fucking watch like. The Dan Brown movies. There's Masonic shit in there, like fucking National Treasure has the Masonic people in it. Like, is any of that shit is there any fucking any part of that? Rich people, that seems like some rich people shit to come up with like fucking treasure map shit, stuff like that. That's what I want to. Just to find out.
You're a vampire.
Right? Alright. How do we do the box plot by hand? This is what we do. I'll give you the rules and then we're gonna do it. A. Find the 5-number summary. Find the 5 numbers. That's where everything starts. Then B, we need the fences. Find the fences. Which means 1, doing IQR, Q3 minus Q1. 2, the lower fence is Q1 minus 1.5 times IQR. And I'll take a break after I say the upper fence one. Q3 plus 1.5 times IQR. Like whatever the Latter-day Saint Church did, they did it right. They've made it like what is clearly a fucking cult, an official national religion. And that isn't generally mocked or treated like, it's not treated like a cult. That's a better way of saying it.
Oh, it's not.
Because we're true.
I know people who live in Utah who live there their whole life now.
Right? All right, so once we have these, we will draw a number line. That includes the 5 numbers and the fences. And you really only need the fences if they are between min and max. I think after you see what we have on this one, when we do our data set here, you'll see what I mean by that. And pro tip, leave space above it for drawing the box. Great idea. I even gasped it was such a great, I'm writing a fiction story. Taking a long time because I don't do like a chapter every 2 weeks or some shit like that. But it's based on all the religions and like, it's like the Hunger Games with the gods. But the gods use like a champion, each of them have a champion. And so like every god's trying to have their champion take out the rest of the gods. And the rest of the champions. And it's like effectively the second Hunger Games, the first Hunger Games was won by the Christian god because he fucking cheated and flooded the world and killed everybody but his champion Noah. So centuries, that millennia later, the gods have decided it's time for another challenge.
I actually like that concept.
actually
That's a good
story.
concept.
It's gonna be a fun concept. That's what I'm working on writing. But I hadn't thought about doing all the different Christian things. And now all of a sudden I found a way of doing like all the Christian versions of God. He's gonna be fucking schizophrenic God. All the different people that worship in different ways have given him schizophrenia. This is gonna be fucking great. How many people can I offend with one fucking book? Without being called what, the satanic verses? When that, what, Solomon Rushdie or some shit like that wrote a long time ago, that's 20 years ago, that pissed off a lot of fucking people. I don't know, onward, Jackie's looking uncomfortable. She's like, let's stop this fucking conversation. Demon. Let's get the fucking torch and the pitchfork. Let's purge this motherfucker. All right, so now we're gonna start drawing our box. We draw vertical lines above Q1, the median, and Q3. And we form a box out of them. It'll look something like that, or it might be where the bar is in the middle, off to the side, or you might even have the bar is in the middle. But it'll look like some form of one of those. The whiskers. We find the highest data value below the upper fence. And the lowest data value above the lower fence. This is what the computer does. What you'll do is just by hand, just use the goddamn fences. Going through the data and figuring out what those values are, it's fucking pain in the ass. When I do it by hand, I'll show you when the computer has a different result, you'll see what I'm talking about. So we're gonna put dots there. And connect to the box with a line. So our box will look something like this. You can optionally put little like bars at the end, make it look like a fucking TIE fighter. That looks like a C, that's an E. Finally, the last thing, the outliers are marked with asterisks. I would say just use a dot, but sometimes people like hear that and make the most imperceptible fucking dot. They just barely touch the paper with a pencil. Like, who the fuck can see that? I know you can't. You only see it because you put it there. If you look at this graph a fucking week later, you wouldn't see your dot. So you make an asterisk, it kind of stands out. It's like it's all faithful up here. You fucking set your clock by it.
So,
Student yesterday in algebra class said, have you ever done more than fart? It said, if I had at school, do you think I would tell you about it? Because as soon as that happens, and students find out that I'll always be known as the professor that shit his pants. Right? So I fucking grossed them out and said, I couldn't tell you. And if I just got up and walked out after I farted, you'd all be pretty suspicious. So I'd probably just have to sit there in it. And that made them all fucking go. Oh. It's fucking great.
oh,
I always know how to take it to another level.
You've got to.
Is everyone ready for that? Like the graph? Let's see the graph.
oh, is everyone ready for what?
The graph. Is everyone ready to watch Professor shit himself? No, just what the fuck is wrong with you? All right, those are my values that I'm gonna use on my graph, so I'm putting them up here where I can see them. Maybe I should rewrite it. So min is 14. Q1 is 18. Median is 21. Q3 is 32. And max is 79. My lower fence is -3. And my upper fence is at 53. Now I don't need those other pages. Okay, so I want to make a number line that includes them. Max is 79, the lower fence is at -3. I'm gonna do like 0 to. I don't need that bar there. I'm gonna do, let's come down here, and I'm gonna do. Yeah, I do. I wanted a bar there, so I could have fucking just done it. I'll put 0 there and 80 there. I think finding numbers that are like whole, like multiples of 10 that are near there is the easiest way to do this. Because then I can start marking midpoints and shit like that. What's halfway between 0 and 80? 40. What's halfway between 0 and 40? What's halfway between 40 and 80? 60. And I can keep doing this halving thing. Maybe I'll just show the up to the 10s. So now I've got little representative marks on my number line that are approximately evenly spaced out. It's good enough, but for doing it by hand. Now I'm going to start marking stuff. My min is right about there. Q1 is just less than 20. And the median's just higher than 20. Q3 is just a little bit above 30. And max is way the fuck over here near the 80. My lower fence is over here. I'll use a different color for that. My lower fence is like here, LF. And my upper fence is right about there. I think that just makes it easier to track what I'm about to do next. So I'm going to draw a vertical line above Q1 median and Q3, and I'm going to form a box. Then I'm gonna go over to either the fence or the value closest to it that's still in the data. The upper fence is over here. I'll put a dot there. I'll make my whisker on the right over here. The lowest graph on the lowest value on the left is actually the min. So I don't want to go past the min. I'm not going to go all the way over to the lower fence. So like, I didn't really need this on the graph. If it makes your number line get way too fucking big, don't put it on there if it's not going to be in the data. And then I look for outliers. Outliers are values that are outside of this area. There was nothing below the min, but there's at least one at 79. And as big as this gap is, there's probably more in here. And you have to go through the data and look. If you have them sorted low to high, this is really easy. This kind of allows us to see the skew. How to read the skew. One whisker longer than the other. And I'm going to go with much longer than the other. It makes it easier to tell. That kind of tells skew because like the whisker is almost like the tail. It's not exactly equal to the tail, but it's kind of like there. The outlier really helps. But every once in a while you have outliers on both sides. The split on the box kind of does it too. This is saying 25% of my data is right in that range. So on a histogram, that's my hill. All the data is like centered in a tiny little area. Or my hump. I've been using the word hump. Like a camel. You know what tomorrow is, right?
Oh,
Hump day! Mike. I fucking love that commercial. Every time I remember it's Wednesday, I fucking go play it on YouTube. I usually like every semester in 1 or 2 classes, I'll remember on Wednesday, I'll fucking play it in Wednesday class. And I will have students just remind me out of the blue. I even had students that were not in my class anymore, but had my cell phone number. And they remembered it was hump day and they fucking texted me, guess what day it is? And it just brings me the biggest fucking smile on my face. So fucking excited, it's hump day. All right, let's see what it looks like on StatCrunch. You guys ready? Is everyone ready? Does anyone need my great artwork up longer? Oh, you're fucking taking a picture. Let me put it back for you. So you can take your picture. You're supposed to say something. I asked like 3 fucking times and then I'm changing it and the flash starts going off. There we go. Verbal fucking component here. Help me out, people. Did I hope? Oh, I am recording. Good. I hit record. All right, those are our values here. We're gonna come over here and do. I'm gonna do the histogram real quick first. And so we did have that hump over near the 20. This is near the 20. That's where that narrow part was on our box graph. On our box plot, this was right above the 20. This narrow part right here was above the 20. And on our histogram, that's where the spike is. Let's look at the box plot. Click on the column you want and make sure you click draw boxes horizontally. So they used the vertical lines. I didn't put them there. They did. They make it look like a, you know, a lopsided TIE fighter, Star Wars. If you put your cursor over it, it will give you the information. Lower limit is the minimum. Well, lower limit is the lower fence or minimum. Q1, median, Q3 are listed. It says upper limit is 52. Remember we calculated the upper fence at 53? 52 is just one number lower than it. So it's like the next number lower than it. You can even come over here and it says how many outliers there are. It says 7 outliers. I only see 6 dots, so there must be a double up somewhere. That says it's at row 4. I can even click on it. Watch this. If I can highlight the row that the outliers, and you can go find that shit. That's kind of cool. You can't click it again to turn it off, so you got to come over here and click clear. But you put it over each one, and it will tell you where those outliers are. I only see 6 dots and it said 7, so there must be another one somewhere. But we can kind of see if put these over one another. We got the thin part here, this part here, and it's definitely skewed right. So you can kind of read the skew directly from the graph. Notice how my, well, let me go back to the paper and point out the quartiles. All my blue lines are the quartiles. Oh, wow, I got the wrong pin in the wrong hole. The min was the 0%. Q1 was 25%. Median was 50%. Q3 is 75%. And max was 100%. Notice that they're not evenly spaced like I did the first time. The bell graph has them evenly spaced out. This doesn't. Well, no, the bell graph still shouldn't be evenly spaced out. But it does point out the number line. These are not evenly spaced. So don't just like assume they're going to be evenly spaced. Why I'm even saying this. And that's it for today's sermon. That's the word I want to call this. The lecture of sermon on mathematics. What?
The word of that.
The word of stats. The word of Hefe. Hefe is a merciful Hefe. A humble man is penitent before Hefe. That's the Indiana Jones for you guys. Got it. Ah.
Isn't it crazy how similar all the different faiths are?